Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show. You're listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education so that they can flourish after 40. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I'm Kim Benoit, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here. I'm also very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Heather Stewart. Welcome to the podcast, Heather.
Thanks, Kim. It's so awesome to chat with you.
Wonderful. Why don't you just first introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, where in the world you are, and what you do.
Wow, yes. It's funny. Not very many people ask me where in the world I am because I think it's such a global community now. But
Yes.
so, yes, I am Heather. And it's funny. I used to introduce myself as a life coach and then a real life coach. I've added the real because I had a client once who had worked with a coach before and he stopped working with them because he felt overwhelmed by all of the things she wanted him to do. And I said, well, it needs to fit in your real life right now. So it's like, let's talk about your real life and how to like get you to shift your real life. And
Love
I've
it.
added transformation facilitator because um, depending on, not everybody subscribes to this kind of um, woo side of the world, but I was having a reading done with a gentleman and he channels a group called The Collective. And they said to me at one point, you're really, really good at what you do. And I said, what am I really good at? And they wouldn't tell me. And that it was because there was another person in the room. We were having a joint reading.
Mhm.
And the next day, the gentleman contacted me. He said, I was uncomfortable with why they wouldn't tell you. So I asked them, and they said they couldn't tell me because of the person in the room. They said, what you're really good at is facilitating transformation. And I was apparently there for that person
Uh,
because it was a joint reading. So there was something that was happening that I was there for that person as well as myself. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I'm a transformation facilitator. That's what I do now, along with a whole bunch of other things that I do. But
yeah.
that's my focus. I love helping people find that aha moment. And I can see it through what I do because I've been teaching yoga for 20 years and I can see when they go, oh, I get it. I'm like, yeah, like that hitting spot. And I teach kayaking and you can see it when they go, oh, I get it. So it's just like, I know I have that intrinsic, I'm trying to light that aha spark moment for people and
Oh
whatever
my
it
gosh.
is,
I love that. So amazing. I've had those moments and I feel amazing. That would be great
right?
to help with other people do that as well.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I'm in Toronto.
I was thinking, did you say where you were from? I mean, you told me before, but yeah, okay,
Yeah,
good. So you're in Toronto,
yes.
Canada. I always like to start out by asking you, when was a time when you felt the most courageous?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good question. Every time you have courage, there is a transformation, even if it's a small amount of courage. But I think the biggest pivotal courageous moment was when I left corporate. So I was a CPA chartered accountant. And when you leave high school and you don't really know what to do, you are highly influenced by parents, friends, peers, mentors, whoever. And I was pretty shy, believe it or not, and I really, really didn't have a good sense of who I was going to be. Because if you compared me now, we always say, oh, I wish I'd known then what I know now, but then you wouldn't have gone on the journey to get you where you are.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that shy young girl. And she went off to university because someone said, you're really good at accounting, so you should go become an accountant because they make lots of money. I'm like, and I didn't care about money. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. So I went and I got my 4-year degree and I did my articling and I became a professional accountant and I did that for 15 years and I was a senior director in a publicly traded company, billions of dollars. And it was funny, even when I was in the accounting firm, I didn't work as hard as everybody else because it wasn't very exciting for me. I was like, yeah, I can do it, like whatever, but I can do a lot of things that I don't necessarily resonate with. And I just remember my partner would be, I think he was always frustrated with me because I would do the files and there was always like there was an hour budget for the files, like you need to do it within this amount of time for them to make their money. And I
Mhm.
would come in either on budget or under budget, but I would never work the hours that the other students or CPAs were working because I didn't want to. I could get my work done within the time that worked for me,
Mhm.
and it would annoy him because everybody there would like sweat and work 80 hours. I'm like, I don't want to work 80 hours. So I left after like 4.5 years. And fast forward to now I'm a senior director, and I was coming to the end of a project and I was going to get promoted again. I got promoted every couple of years. And I think it was because they could see me getting bored.
Uh,
So I was talking with a colleague. I'm like, oh, they're going to give me another promotion. I'm like, I don't want another promotion. And she's laughing at me. And I said, well, if I get another promotion, it's going to require more of my time, right? I'm going to have to work more. Yes, there's more money. I don't need more money. I don't need another title. Those aren't important. What's important is my time. And the more time I spend on this, the less time I have for the things that excite me and that make me happy and that I enjoy doing. I do this, I work. I heard this phrase once, I work to live, I don't live to work.
mhm.
And at that point, that was because what I was doing as a job was not like I enjoyed the people that I worked with. I enjoyed the social aspects of it, but the work itself was not exciting for me.
Mhm.
And I can hear my parents saying, work's not supposed to be exciting. But but I disagree. I respectfully disagree.
Right.
So I was I was in this position and a couple of things happened. It was a very male dominated industry and I was in a meeting and I was in my 30s. I was past 35 and I was in a meeting with these gentlemen, and they're all older than me. And there's a group of people called jobbers who are just mom and pop industries who would come to our stores, buy a whole bunch of stuff at like a wholesale price, and then go and resell it to little convenience stores, like the little mom and pop convenience stores. And they were trying to figure out a way to drive these people out of business so that they could take that market. And by accident, my inside voice didn't stay inside that day. And I said,
Uh-oh.
leave them alone. They're just trying to make a living. You've got enough money. What are you trying to drive these people out of business for? And they all, they all just kind of looked at me. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. They just kind of gave me a little smile and then they went back to their conversation. I was there to represent the finance department and have a conversation about how the finances were working. So I thought, okay, that's interesting because I'd never kind of like blurted anything out like that before. I was always the just stay in line person.
Yeah.
And then I was like really shortly after that, I was trying to balance a budget. So head office would say how much money they wanted, and all the different divisions that I reported for would report into me their budgets, and somehow I had to make them meet in the middle.
Mhm.
And I needed another $1 million. And head office is like, I need another $1 million. And the divisions are like, no, we don't have any more for you. That's all we're giving you. So I'm like moving numbers around. If they ever tell you that accounting is 100% accurate, maybe your checkbook is. But on an organization that large, there's a lot of things going on.
Sure.
None of it's illegal, but
Right.
and my radio was on and I heard this report come on that said that the man who was like we were publicly traded, but there's one gentleman who owned the majority of the company. how much money he was worth. And I thought, what? Screw that, man. He doesn't need another $1 million. Like, it was all for the shareholders at that point. I was like, well, why am I doing this job? Like, it came like, why am I doing this job? I obviously am not really enjoying it. I wouldn't even turn on the lights in my office because I didn't like the fluorescence. I had a lava lamp on my desk. I
Oh
didn't
my
even,
goodness.
yes. And, the mailroom guy would come and talk to me for, 15, 20 minutes on his rounds. I thought he was an interesting guy. He was trying to become a filmmaker, and he thought I was HR for a long time. So it was like, what am I doing here? What am I
Yeah.
really doing here? And why am I staying here? Like, you really start to question when you get these little drop-ins. It's like it takes a moment for you to pause and go, wait a minute, how did I get here? Why did I decide to do this? What am I compromising for that I shouldn't be, really? So I had started to take yoga after work because of stress, right?
Mhm.
And there were three things that happened that caused that. So those were the first two. And the third thing kind of sealed the deal. I was trying to get to yoga after work, and I had had some meeting that had run late. So I was driving to yoga and I was thinking about the meeting, and I was just like in this kind of state of automatic pilot. And Toronto's a pretty busy city to drive in.
Right.
And there's this intersection that has like four lanes in each direction.
Mm.
And I was driving along and I was driving through the intersection and there was a pedestrian in front of me. And I started cursing and yelling. It's like, what? Are they trying to get themselves killed? And I looked
Oh.
up and my light was red. And I had had no idea. I
Oh, wow.
was so disconnected. I was like, oh my God, my light is red. I didn't even see the yellow. Like,
Yeah.
there's it was just like a slap in the face. I could have hit that person. Like all of these other cars somehow waited till I went through and didn't kill me because I could have been like sandwiched
Sure.
because I was not going slow. I was trying to
Of
get to
course not.
yoga,
Yeah.
and I got to yoga and I said to Carrie, my yoga teacher, who was had become my friend because I was going there so much. I was like, I almost killed someone. And she said, Heather, maybe it's time to check in. So that whole class, I was just I felt a bit dazed. And I realized this is not right. Like, this is not a good way to be in the world. This is not how I'm meant to be in the world. This is, this is just something's got to switch here. And I had kind of been taking some yoga teacher training classes, like on the weekends.
Mhm.
And just because I wanted to know more about yoga, I'm one of those like, oh, I like this. I want to know more about it. So I will dive in and learn all about it. And I decided like it wasn't, I feel like some people want like this, dun, dun, everything, but I didn't. It was like I had to give myself some space and some time to really settle into that idea that this isn't what I want. Okay, what am I going to do?
Sure.
But I did make that decision. And when I made that decision was the big switch. And I got divorced because my husband at the time didn't like this change that was happening in me. Like I
Mm.
invited him to come with me. I'm like, I want more out of my life. Like, let's come. And he was not ready to do that. So, and it had been like seriously, it had been a couple of years of us kind of drifting in different directions. So
Sure.
we got divorced. I sold my house and I quit my job all in a
Wow.
month.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
You just did it. You
Yeah,
jumped
it
right
was
in.
like I remember when I was a little kid, my mom said, "You never crawled when you were a baby. You sat and you watched, and then one day you decided to stand up and walk." I said, "Okay." So I think that's kind of how I was built. Like I sat with that all of those things that were circling around in my head, and I went, "Okay, okay, okay." Boom, and then I did it. Now
So,
I know for some people that freaks them out because I was after I left corporate, and I'll come back to that story, but for 14 years, I was a registered massage therapist after I left
ah,
corporate.
Okay.
And I was telling one of my clients one day, and she's lying on the table, and I'm telling her my story because she's asking me all these questions, and I'll chat with people if they want to talk. She almost jumped off the table when I told her what I did, and I thought, whoa, you're supposed to be relaxing.
Yeah.
So when I did all of that, I actually went to India because I thought I'm really into yoga right now. I'm going to just go see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I went for 3 months. And I went with someone who was in my teacher training program. And we had become friends, and because he had been to India already, and it was like I'd never been anywhere like that. So I was like, I'm going to talk to someone who's been there, find out some
Mhm.
information. And we discovered that he was taking a sabbatical from his work, and he was planning to go back. And I was quitting my job, and I was going to go. So we just decided to go together and
Oh,
travel around. And it is helpful to have a guy traveling around in India as a woman, just because of the culture. Like, not,
sure.
it's not good or bad. It's just the way the culture is. And I asked a gentleman one day, and apparently it's not appropriate for a man to talk directly to a woman there in the
Oh.
old culture.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, why do you keep talking to him? I'm standing right in front of you, and it's just inappropriate because it can be seen as being forward, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
it's like looking up a girl's skirt or something. It's like, don't talk to her. That's inappropriate. So we traveled, and we came back after 3 months because I promised my grandmother I would come back. And that space and time that I took made me really realize that accounting was a great basis for me, like a great background, but not really what I was meant to do or what really got me excited. So when I
Right.
came back, I started teaching yoga. I became a personal trainer, and I went back to school and I became a
Okay.
massage therapist. It took 2 years of school to become a massage therapist. Up here, it's a regulated health profession.
Uh-huh.
So it takes you 2 years of school and board exams.
Hmm.
And whoa, I turned 40 in massage school. So let me tell you,
Wow.
going back to school at 40, yeah, but I was
I
studying.
can't
Like
imagine.
I can remember sitting with because the guy that I went traveling with,
Hmm.
we came back from India and we're still together 20 years later.
Oh,
So
okay, nice.
yeah. He we realized that we were really good together. Like, we didn't become codependent. We're very independent, but we really love each other and we really love supporting each other. So when we actually went back to India for our wedding ceremony, and our vows were we vowed to support each other on our journey as long as love lasts.
Hey, ladies. I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode. And I also wanted to remind you that there are a couple easy ways for you to support the show, and they are both free. The first thing, maybe you've already done this. That's great. Thank you so much. Go to the platform where you listen and click the follow button. Super easy. You'll get notifications of every episode the day they come out. If you want to get those notifications earlier, you can go ahead to my website, www.midlifewithcourage.com, and subscribe to the website. What that means is you'll get an email every Monday with an inspirational message and a link to the episode so that you can listen to it ahead of everyone else. So if that sounds great to you, I would love for you to do that. Join me on my website. You'll also get notified of some wonderful new things I have coming down the road. I can't wait to share them with you. So remember, follow and subscribe. Let's get back to the episode.
Oh,
And that kind of speaks to our whole relationship. Is like,
sure.
he went off to do his master's degree. I kept our yoga studio running. I went to art school. He kept the yoga studio running. So it's just
Huh.
like, yeah. So it's a really beautiful relationship, I have to
That's
say.
really, yeah, you still have that thread of the yoga in the
Yeah,
middle. just
Well,
keeping, it's kind of not just keeping you together, but it's just there. I love that you're
yeah.
holding on to
And
that.
he still teaches twice a week. Our yoga studio closed, but he rents a place twice a week to teach his same group of ladies that's been teaching for,
Oh,
I don't know, like 15 years now that he teaches
Nice.
them. And I still teach online and I teach out when I take people out guiding into Georgian Bay in the kayaks, I'll teach yoga.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is, and we still do it together. So there is that
Nice.
whole thread. And but I switched from this like corporate life because
Yeah.
I realized I needed to help people, right?
Right.
And wellness was my entry into it, It's like I'll teach them yoga, that'll help them. I'll be their personal trainer and help them get fit. I will give them massages and help relieve all their tension. But it was funny, while I was a massage therapist, people will talk to you while you're a massage. You spend an hour, it's quiet, they're relaxed. I
mhm.
felt like a bartender or sometimes a psychotherapist because they would ask me questions. I'm like, wow, I'm not qualified for this, but I'll give you my opinion. And, it's like, so, and in 2021, here's another pivotal moment. So my life was fabulous. I was having a great time
Mhm.
and I loved everything that I did. And in 2021, I had a stroke.
Oh,
And I had actually started coaching already. Like I had been coaching for a few years. I was
mhm.
doing the wellness side but I was business coaching because of my accounting background and my knowledge of how health and fitness professionals don't have a business mind. It's just
Yeah.
not in their wheelhouse. So I started business coaching health and wellness people because I thought, oh my gosh, they're all just trying to help people and they can't pay their rent. How can I teach them to manage their businesses so that they can be successful?
Mhm.
So I was business coaching. I had a YouTube channel, Build a Better Business, where I was trying to explain to people how to do their businesses. And I had a stroke and it was 2021, so it was like mid-COVID. I
Mhm.
think COVID's this echo that's going to go on for decades.
I know.
But so many things happened, right? So many things shifted during that time frame. So
For sure.
I was in the hospital and it's Halloween. So, and I'm in a downtown Toronto hospital and it's a bit crazy. If you live somewhere that has a couple million people, like it can be crazy in the downtown. And so no one's allowed to visit me because I'm in the ER and there's there's some interesting characters in the ER and there's no beds in the hospital because it's too crowded. So
Oh no.
I spent 3 days in the emergency room alone. And nicely, they gave me a cot to sleep on and a cubicle with a curtain.
Mm.
So, and I kept, can I have another blanket? It was freezing there. I could have another blanket. And I
Sure.
couldn't see properly because my eyes I'd gone cross-eyed. This was how I knew I'd had a
Oh,
stroke.
okay.
Actually, I didn't know I'd had a stroke. I just thought, they even thought I had an ocular migraine. It took them 12 hours to realize I'd had a stroke.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't do what people do to escape into their phones,
Sure.
to escape what's going on. So I was like, okay, universe, you've got my attention. It's like I've got a 3 day silent retreat. I didn't know it was going to be 3 days, but
Yeah.
I was blessed with a 3 day silent retreat.
Hmm.
So sitting quietly, listening to what's going on outside the room, like
Mhm.
I've got my curtain shut, and listening to life happen. Like there was people who were afraid of what was going on. There was people who were suffering. And just like, wow, there's a lot of life going on outside this room. There were
Mhm.
some police officers who were talking about the prostitute they'd brought in, and I'm like, wow, like, whoa, there's stuff going on out here. And I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention. Like, what am
Mhm.
I supposed to learn from this?
Mhm.
And I mean, I say it jokingly, but the universe did kick me in the butt as hard as I could without permanent damage. Like there, I have recovered. It was 2021. It was 3 years ago at this point.
Mhm.
And the only lasting remnant is sometimes I can't remember people's names.
Ah,
It's like someone messed up the files where my Filodex is, my Rolodex is, and I'm like, who was
yeah.
that again? I can't find that name. I
Uh-huh.
have to go and rewire the files. So I didn't recover like immediately. It took me some time and it gave me some space because I slept a lot and I had to rest a lot.
Mhm.
But what I realized was, okay, you are helping people with their physical wellness. Everything you're doing is great, physical wellness. You're
Mhm.
helping them, the health and wellness people with their businesses, but that's still too small.
Mhm.
So I had to expand. No, I got to expand. And my podcast, which we were just talking about earlier, my podcast, which just started its fourth season, started from that. It's called Back to Me.
Yeah, we're gonna share all that. Yeah.
Back to Me.
Back to
And
me.
my program came from that. While I was laying there thinking, it's like, okay, if I want to help people more, what have I been doing for myself? And I
Yeah.
realized, okay, so I've been taking care of my health for sure, and I've been taking care of my emotional health, and I've been taking care of the relationships around me and my job and my financials and the things that excite me. And it's like, okay, that's what I've got to do. So all of those little like curveballs that were thrown, some of them I threw myself,
Yeah.
but it was just like, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. But at the same time, like some people will go, oh my God, that's like crazy. But at the same time, they happened when I was ready. I had a conversation yesterday with actually a friend and mentor, and because even I feel like even my mentors, sometimes I help. And she was going because they'll talk to me. And I'm like, she was struggling with something. I said, well, but you weren't ready for this then. Like
Mhm.
a couple of years ago when we met, you were in this phase, and now this thing has come to you because you had to do all this work in between. So, whether you believe in the universe or the divine or a higher order or your higher self or whatever it is, everything that comes to you comes at the time when you're ready to manage it, whether you believe it or not. So
Yeah.
when I had that stroke, I was like, okay, it was the perfect timing because I'm like, okay, I'll sit here and meditate for 3 days, no problem.
Yeah.
Last year, I fell. I was on vacation in Jordan. I went to Egypt and Jordan, dream
Mm.
trips. I fell in the desert in Jordan. Over the only rock in the entire desert, I fell
No.
down and I broke my wrist.
Oh, wow.
And people are like, oh my God, didn't it hurt? Oh my God, didn't it ruin your vacation? I'm like, I don't remember if it hurt. They drove me out of the desert. I ended up going to three different hospitals and talking to all these doctors, and it was all of these people, and it was so interesting. And I was kind of laughing the entire time because I'm holding on to my wrist. Like I've got enough medical knowledge to know what's happened,
Sure.
probably what bone it is, and I'm just tractioning it to hold it into place so it doesn't hurt. And there's all these people, and there's people sitting on the floor, and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. Like, and people are saying, and still me like you see a white girl with red hair walking around in a hospital in Jordan, I kind of stick out.
Sure,
And
sure.
they kept coming up to me and like blessing me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so nice here. I love it. Like,
Yeah.
so my memory of that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And my husband, I was in the hotel room after they casted my wrist, and he was still in the desert, and he messaged me. I said, because I told him to stay in the desert. I said,
Sure.
you'll just be too stressed out, and
Yeah.
you just stay here and stress out.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, stay here and stress out. I'll be okay. I've got my guide, I've got the driver, I've got all these people to help me.
Yeah.
It'll be better for me if you stay here. Because some people go, what? He didn't go with you?
Yeah.
Because he loved me, he stayed. So,
Yes. I get
um,
that. I get
yeah,
that.
exactly. So he messaged me. He goes, should I change our flights and go home? I'm like, no, forget it. Like, I've got a cast on, I've got a sling, I've got painkillers. I'm good.
You're good to go.
Let's go. I'm not done exploring the world.
Yeah.
So all of these things like that, I was ready for that at that point because I had a lesson they were trying to teach me from that, which was
Mhm.
to receive help.
I
Because
love
when
that
you have
you
a broken
take,
wrist, yeah.
yeah, you take all your experiences or whatever experience it is, and you have like a positive outlook on it. I had to spend 3 days in the ER. Well, I had a 3-day retreat. Like, I don't think too
Right?
many people would call it that. What,
No, no. and it's a choice, right? Like people
Yeah.
say, well, she's just strange. Like I'm actually, maybe I am. I don't know. I don't think I'm strange.
No.
But you have a choice. You can be there and be suffering and be like, I have the word verklempt comes to mind, like, oh my God, and looking for pity, like, please pity me. But I'm like, I'm not that personality. I'm like, I don't want pity. I want to understand. I want to be curious about what's going on. Even if you're not looking for a life lesson, maybe you're like, no, I don't want a life lesson. It's just an interesting experience to see what actually happens behind the scenes of a place. Like I was talking to the nurses going, okay, so I saw that over there. Like, what's going on over there? And, and when I did actually spend 4 days in the hospital. My last night, they got me a bed in the stroke ward. My husband was immediately there. It's like,
Uh,
ka-choom, right next to me. And
nice,
he
nice.
stayed until they kicked him out. But my nurse was like, I'm chatting away with him about where he's from. He's from the Philippines. I'm like, oh, is your family here? It's just because these are people and they're doing what they can. And I just find it so fascinating to find out about people and what
Yeah,
brings them into places. And I'll even sit in coffee shops, like not creepy,
yeah.
listen, but just like having an experience of people's lives.
Right.
I think it's just to understand what's going on with people. I just find people fascinating and interesting.
Yeah. Were you like that before you had your podcast?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've always been that person. When I was a kid, they said that I was really, like, well, I was really shy, but they would always say, oh, she's so quiet and she's so polite. But I think that it was just me observing the world and observing like I knew what was going on with people before they did most of the time.
Interesting.
Like I remember I had these two massage clients even who they were a couple. I knew they were going to get divorced before they did.
Uh,
Just from conversations I had with them, I'm like, oh, I mean, it's not my place to tell them that, so I didn't say anything. But
right, right.
yeah, it's just people are so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think by being able to meet people where they are, like to understand where people are and meet them where they are, helps you help them if they're wanting to shift something in their lives. Like people often, like I had a client who she called me, she said, I need you to come and spend the weekend. She was at her cottage. I was like, okay. So I got in my car and I drove to her. She said, I'll supply the wine. I said, okay, no problem. And she said, because her husband was away for the weekend, she said, I'm unhappy, but I don't know why. And I don't know what makes me happy anymore. And I thought, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Because I've had so many things that make me happy that it was like, okay, let's figure this out. So we
Sure.
spent the weekend talking. We went because we're at the cottage, we went out on the lake. We did a variety of things just to help her. She was having a shift in her life and she was feeling a little untethered. So it's like helping her reground into who she was and what she wanted and helping her kind of navigate that and find the things. Like I think I talk about, I want to find the things that make your heart sing. And they don't have to necessarily be the thing that pays you because I don't know if you've read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Nope.
If you haven't, oh my gosh, I
Oh,
love that book. I haven't read Eat, Pray, Love
okay.
because I felt like I lived it. So
It sounds like you did.
yeah. But I did read Big Magic, and there's a thing in there where she says, don't force the thing that you love doing to earn you a living because that puts too much pressure on it. Like she's talking about creativity. So
Yeah.
don't, if you're feeling like you want it, like I am a professional artist, I am a painter and I sell paintings, but I don't force my paintings to become my my source of income because I feel like it would change the energy behind what I create. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can sell a banana stuck to a wall for however many million dollars, but
What is that all about? Like,
don't even get me started.
oh my goodness.
My grandmother was a painter and she was British. And I know what she would say. She would say, "That's rubbish." But I mean, art's all interpretation. So, but
Right.
I don't like the point is the things that make my heart sing, yes,
Mhm.
they'll say follow your passion and the you don't have to work a day in your life. But
Yeah.
I have that thing because I've got the still accountant in me. It's like budgets and I've got to, manage my income levels and all of these things. But I'm not going to make my art do that because I feel like it would change the energy of that. I don't even really make my coaching do that, but I still have to pay the bills. So
Yeah, right, right.
I listen to Abraham a lot. I'm like, I'll just hold my vibration and then do the things I like to do.
That is so timely for me at this moment. I will just tell you that. Yeah. I think that
Beautiful.
you were meant to say those words to me at this
Yep.
moment. So, and I will, we could talk about that off after we're done, but that is so interesting. So many things here. You've done so much. And when you were talking about your career as an accountant, what the word that came to me was that you weren't passionate about it. There was no passion
No,
there, but you
no,
stayed in it
I
until
did.
you were found a way to take your passion and do what you really wanted to do.
And I stayed in it like I knew. Sometimes I think people don't realize you can change your mind,
Yeah.
right? It's like they need
Yeah.
permission. So I sometimes I'll say to people, I'm your permission slip. You can do whatever you want. Like, I have people saying, well, I want to retire, but I can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. And
Yeah.
they'll give me the list of reasons why they can't. I said, but those are all choices. I can't because I have this or this or this. Those are all choices. So everything is a choice and you're never actually stuck. But
Huh.
I had to come to the realization that I could make another decision. Like it took me a while to realize, wow, I can actually make a different decision. And I think it's funny, the way I got into yoga was there was a senior vice president that I was friends with. And one day he said to me, "Hey, I've been taking yoga. You want me to get yoga pass?" I'm like, "I've heard that's good for stress, sure." And I was just curious, so off I went. And little did I know, like that was going to shift the trajectory to give me space to go, oh, this is actually more fun than accounting. Wow, that's interesting. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's so fun to look back on things that happen because at the time, maybe we didn't think it was such a huge thing, but in reality, yes, it was like the
yeah,
turning point, and that
yeah.
fascinates me too. That's why I love doing this podcast because I get to ask people and talk to them about those kinds of things. Tell us a little bit more about how you help other people. Are you working with women? Are you working with both men and women? What are you doing to help people transition?
It's interesting. So I work with whoever finds me and
Okay,
resonates with me. But what I have found is mostly women. And
sure.
I think, and like I've worked with men and they're fascinating and they're used to being very self-sufficient. So I think that's why men often don't seek out coaching because they're just used to I'm very self-sufficient. I'm going to figure it out. Like that is the way they are in the world. And women tend to be more that collaborative. I'm going to go talk to my girlfriends. I'm going to figure this out, so and women like to talk more than men. I'm
That is for sure.
generalizing. I'm generalizing
Yes.
because I know men who talk a lot. And but so generally I work a lot with women and I see it seems to be a lot of like in that midlife phase where if you have kids, you've gotten them to where they can take care of themselves,
Mhm.
or you've gotten to a point in your career like a lot of things shifted and they might be like, "Oh, I've just realized I don't like what I'm doing. That's interesting." Or let's talk menopause just for a moment. Like it's like reverse puberty. You go,
Oh,
what the and I was talking to a menopause coach the other day. I'm pretty convinced that a lot of divorces happen because of menopause, because neither side is prepared for or understands what's going on. It's like, where's the lady I married? I don't know. I'm not in the mood to talk about it right now. I'm having a hot
yeah.
flash. Like,
Yeah. Just, yeah. Totally get that too.
yeah.
Yeah, Heather,
So,
I know.
so helping, it seems, so a lot of what I do is helping women navigate. I've reached this point and I've realized I'm not happy and I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
I don't even know where to start. And I actually got a trademark. I trademarked my program. It's called the Thriving Life Method. So I work one-on-one, but I also work like it's just about to come out, a little DIY kind of quickie course. And
Nice.
then there's a group coaching, and I work on 6 areas specifically. And when I work one-on-one, sometimes we just skip right into what needs to be done. But at the very least, we talk about your physical. So it spells the word become because I love acronyms. Your body, which is your physical health, your emotional health, your community, which is like the relationships you have around you. You actually can choose. People say you can't choose your family. You can choose whether to keep them close or far.
Exactly.
Your occupation, and I have a client who's retired, so she calls it her beloved vocation because she loves doing this thing that she views as a job, even though it's not a paying job. So it doesn't have to be related to money because M is money, your financial health. And I do help people if they're like, I'm, going to declare bankruptcy. Let's figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
I do have that whole financial side. And the last E is engagement, which is actually, I just needed an E, your spiritual health, your passion, your purpose. And I leave it to
Uh,
the end because people often are, they need to go through the kind of the 3D stabilizing, grounding, earth plane things before
mhm.
we talk about your greater purpose. You know,
Sure. Yeah. I
it's like
love
Marie
that.
Kondo. She takes you through your clothes first before she gets you to your memorabilia, because then you're ready.
Right. Yeah. Baby steps almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So where would you like people to go to find you?
HeatherStewart.coach. Easy peasy.
Easy, easy. Awesome. Yeah, we will put the link to that in the show notes, and all the links to whatever everything you can help people with are in there. This has just been such a fascinating conversation, and I've just been kind of like listening and oh my gosh. Are you ever going to write a book?
That's an interesting question because I was the co-author of a book that just came out.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And there's my coach who I love. I've been with my coach. Like, I think everybody should have a coach.
Yeah.
And I've been working with him for quite a while, and he's perfect for me. He's so kind. And he got 10 of us together, 10 of his clients together to write a book. And
Uh-huh.
so it's on values because we talk about values a lot
Sure.
and how to kind of align your values with how you're living your life. And
Mm,
that just came out, and that's on Amazon and
okay.
Kindle. And then, yes, I do have a book that's been percolating around in my head.
Okay.
So having writing a book is like having a baby.
Uh-huh.
It's got to grow, it's got to like
Yeah.
go through, and then it's like the growing pains of adolescent as you edit it. So it's just going to take a little while.
Yeah.
But the book that's out is called Find Your Values, a collection of stories and strategies on finding yourself through your values.
Okay. We will get that and we'll put that in the show notes as well so people can find that for you. So wonderful. Well, Heather, like I said, I feel like we could just keep going. But before we say goodbye, is there any one last message you want to leave with our listeners?
That's a good question. So, just as I look over top of my computer, there's a card that sits above my desk that says, let go of being right. So, there is no right and wrong, and there's actually no good and bad in the world. There just is experience and information. And if you can let go of the good and bad, and just take it as an experience and something interesting. If you can let go of having to be right in your decision, that opens you up to the ability to find so much excitement and so much more life in your life.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I'm sure we will be talking to you again. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
Awesome. Wonderful. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.